Hello and welcome to the Point to Rise show. This is your host, Suzanne Prochelle, former international ballerina that found her passion in mindset, business, and technology, and is today the founder of Rise Media. It is my purpose to use all the experiences of my past to create a better, financially sustainable future for the performing arts industry. And that starts with every single one of us. I believe that being you is your superpower. And I am here to guide you, empower you, inspire you, and give you all the resources you need to rise above what you think you're capable of. Every week, I'll bring you 3 shows featuring guests, collaboration, and mini episodes to ensure that you have the support in your journey as a performer. I want you to know that you are not alone. Stop chasing and start creating. Your success starts now, here with you. So let's go. I think we're recording. Awesome. And we're back. Welcome back to the show. Eline is our guest today. I am so grateful that you're here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for working through 22 minutes of hiccups. I'm so grateful.
Let's blame it on Mercury retrograde. That's still happening. So
it's still happening, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so you and I connected in one of the women's groups coffee chats that we were in, and I heard you talking about that you have a background in arts. So I wanted to have a conversation with you. So here we are, 2 weeks later. I love how this sometimes work. I love how we are now able to connect with each other in a much simpler way, and where we're saying, yeah, sure, I'll do that, and there's no more friction, with it has to be perfect, and we have to have a conversation before that, just simply because we don't have other options anymore. And you're in Belgium, I'm in Canada. How cool is that?
awesome.
Okay, let's talk about you. Can you give us like a little bit of a background, 5 minutes, 30,000 foot approach, so we get to know who Eline is?
Sure. So my name is Eline, and as you've already mentioned, I am based in Belgium. For the past 7 years, almost 7 years, I have been helping electronic musicians to build up their confidence and to really be able to more easily cope with their negative feelings related to their music so that they can actually do the things that they feel move the needle. And so I've been doing that since 2015. I have a background in nightlife and club culture for a very long time, almost 20 years of experience in the music industry right now. And so my heart really is in electronic music and helping electronic musicians. I am also engaged to an electronic musician. I'm like deep in it. And just like everybody during these past 2 years, I've been recalibrating a little bit more into what do I really want to do? I mean, we're always trying to do what we think we have to do or what we have been conditioned to do. And me, myself, I'm a holistic coach and I've been trained in many modalities, but I'm still a human being. So I fall prey to that. And so this COVID pandemic period really has helped me to dive a little bit deeper and really have the courage to do what I really, really want to do. And that means that besides helping electronic musicians, I have decided to now also help spiritual women and soulpreneurs to build sacred relationships in their life, to have deep connections to anything and everything that's important to them in their life so that they can feel worthy and deserving of living their most abundant life. And a third thing that I've added is I'm now also helping horse owners to help ease their horse's anxiety with equine Reiki. That is something that's been like super recent that I just added. But also, again, there, the common denominator really is having that deeper connection and just really fostering better sacred relationships. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Yeah, and I guess we'll just take it away in a conversation. I'm sure you'll discuss more.
Gotcha. Hang on. So why do you think deeper connection is important? And I'm asking that question because it is definitely and certainly not something that we're teaching our kids yet. It's not something we talk about in school. We talk about it when we step into self development, when we start feeling the gut punches over and over again, and asking ourselves, hey, how did I get here? So, why is it important? Let's just start there first.
So my take on that is that as a person who struggled with mental health issues and a lot of trauma stemming from my youth, I'm a sexual abuse survivor, domestic violence survivor. So my connection to self has always been super important in terms of my survival. And so I learned to really put my mental health and my mental well being first. And I was always looking for ways to really connect to my soul. Like, who am I? Why am I here? Why did I land in this life on this planet? Because the first 17 years of my life were really ugly. And that's also how I kind of rolled into nightlife and electronic music, trying to find a connection with myself and with other people. And for me, it happens to happen through music, right? And so being in clubs, being at festivals, raving with other people together was really my first experience of deep, deep connection. And it's something that really healed me and it kept me going and it fueled me to want to basically stay alive and make something of my life. And then later on, as I kind of entered the professional world of the music industry, I started doing artist handling, artist management. I started up a label way back in the day with my then boyfriend. And I could see that people were really struggling with the pressure in the music industry, coping with this fast paced competitive environment. And really, also, the only thing they really wanted was to do what they love, which is make music and connect with other people through music. And a lot of the people that I've worked with always tell me that it always started with, I just want people to feel good when they listen to my music. I want them to feel what I feel when I listen to that piece of music. I just want them to feel good. I want them to dance. I want them to enjoy life, right? And so for me, it's just something that is just so innate to being a human being, right? To going through this life, whatever happens, we're always trying to find ways to be connected to anything and everything in our lives, whether it's other people, whether it's our music, whether it's our body, our business, our finances, food, whatever. There's always this sense of, I want to feel this deep connection and I want to feel good.
I want to feel good. I think that is something that I didn't think was actually possible or I am entitled to
Mm.
because of, artists. Just why would we feel good? Like, we don't. We're here to make others feel good. We're here to be seen, but not to feel good because we have to work hard in order to be seen, right? And I think, and this is what I drew me to having this conversation with you today, is because you're helping another performing arts form to feel better about what they're doing without mm, jeopardizing themselves so much,
Mm.
right? And I think we forget that our art at that point is actually suffering if we're giving ourselves so much up that we don't even know who we are. And this is why bringing back the deep connection with ourselves and putting ourselves first is so imperative.
Yeah, and also something that kind of comes to mind now. Last week, I was talking about mental health in the music industry at a local debate here in Belgium. And one of the things that came up, and I see this happen a lot, is there is within the music industry or the arts, if you're an artist, a creative, I'm sure anybody listening will relate to this. You don't necessarily have to be a musician just to relate to this, is that you have the creative side of things, which is the thing that you are expressing as a soul, as a human being, as an artist. But then you also have the business side of things. And what I see happening a lot is that the business side of things and the demands of the business side of things take over and kind of kill the arts. Because when you, and this is something that I see happen a lot with artists, they start out with making music because they have such a deep passion. They wouldn't know what else to do. They can feel it in their soul. They just have to do it. Like they just have to do it. But they don't necessarily choose to be an entrepreneur. They don't necessarily choose to be like a brand or a business in and of itself.
Mm.
And oftentimes when that kind of takes over, they're like, oh, people are telling me my music is really good and it should be released by some label, and I don't really know how to do that. And they start chasing strategies and they start trying on marketing strategies and trying to promote themselves, but they don't really know how to do that. And they get really disappointed, and the market is so competitive, and it kind of really kills their need for making music, and it kills their inspiration and that flow, and there is no longer that peace, calm, and stability that is needed for your creativity to flow, because you're so busy chasing all of the other things that you didn't necessarily consciously choose and seem to be part of the game because that's how everybody else is doing it, so you think that's how you have to do it as well, and you kind of deviate so far from the path that you originally stepped on, which is expressing yourself through music and connecting, right? I don't know why I was telling this, but this kind of came to mind because you said something about.
Okay, I want to dive a little bit deeper into that because, and thank you for bringing that up. And it makes so much sense now to the phenomenon that I'm seeing, particularly in the performing arts, that we're actually not leaning into business practices. And now I
Mhm.
know why. Because we believe, we have experience, we have evidence that it actually can kill our creative side. Okay. And
Mhm.
I want to add something from being on both sides. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, true. Fair.
Because when you start chasing, it does not necessarily mean that you're in the business side. What it means is that you don't have the clarity yet. What it means is that you want to please others and you don't know who you really are. And it comes out because you're doing something you've never done before, because it's something that doesn't come to you natural and you need to learn something new. You know, it's not your passion.
Yeah,
And
you didn't choose it, right?
right, right. But it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the business side itself, because business can be fun too. You know that. I know that. We are in groups that we know that's fun. That's cool. Like we have and find joy in the business side because business is really just creativity with a different name,
Oh yeah, for sure.
right? So
Mm.
and I am preaching that every single day. I think performing artists altogether so powerful in who they are and what they're doing. Let me give you an example. Okay. I'm a board member of a really new ballet company in Pittsburgh. And we are figuring out a way to market the company because we're not building a company like any other company. There's no need for it. We're building a full profit model, which is, in a way, dancer owned as well. So what that means is that the dancers also need to be on social media and need to show themselves and need to develop a
Mm.
brand, showing the audience who they really are. And we're so afraid of artists do not of. We are so afraid as artists to actually do that because we A, don't feel worthy of ourselves, and B, we're so scared that if somebody actually truly knows us and who we are, they won't like us anymore and they will also not buy into the art that we're producing. Would you
Yeah.
agree? Like that's my inner gut feeling that comes out over and over and where I find the most evidence too. So
Yeah, I've seen this happen a lot as well. And I know when I first started out in 2015, the year after that, there was this research that had been done for the very first time in the world of electronic music, looking into the mental health of musicians, well, musicians in general, but it was kind of implied electronic music. But so what was found in that study is that artists are 3 times more likely to have a depression or some sort of related mental health illness because they tend to be more vulnerable than the quote unquote general population. I don't like to generalize, but just
Yes,
to kind of
but
try
I
and
yeah.
because, and this really makes sense if you think about it, because when you're an artist, you create something, you put it out there in the world for everybody to see, criticize, pick apart, have their opinion on, have unsolicited advice on.
Right.
And so you give that vulnerable part of yourself away and you don't know what's going to happen. So it's very logical to feel very exposed and to really find it harder than maybe other people, to cope with the stuff that's coming back to you because you don't know what people are going to say. And it's normal to internalize those things and to think, oh, you know so and so doesn't think it's good enough, so that probably means that I'm not good enough. And you identify with the statements that come back at you, you turn them into beliefs, and you start to think that this means something about you as a person because you have not learned coping strategies as to how to deal with those things. And also, nobody tells you that, right? When you create a track or some art and you decide to put it out there, nobody tells you, like, hey, it's very likely that you will get several different opinions. People will want to pick this apart. Maybe you will get some really negative criticism, and this is how you can cope with it. Like, nobody tells you that. You're just like, hey, if you don't want to do it, there is somebody else around the corner that is ready to take your place. So either you go for it now is your chance, because you never know when it's going to come back again. And that brings so much pressure all the time that, and this is something that I like to say in my coaching practice, that it makes you procrastinate on doing things, because procrastination is the pressure to be perfect. And if you cannot get it perfect enough, you'd rather not do it at all. And that whole kind of conversation with pressure is constantly going on. You feel like you have to do something, but then it has to be perfect, and you're not sure what that should look like. So you kind of don't do anything at all. And I see this a lot with artists who, like, I've had artists come to me and they had just quit music altogether and felt almost depressed because they just couldn't deal with that pressure of being perfect, right?
Okay. So yes, 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 yes. When you're saying when we're really looking at how artists are being trained, like if it's in music, in acting, in dance, in whatever, in singing, we're training the hard skills, right? We're setting them up to know an instrument, how to translate their emotions into, let's say, their art in a way. Yeah. At best, at best.
Mm.
And I think what we're missing out on is actually really truly preparing them for the world, meaning that we're completely underestimating the power of self-development, because it is the most vital part in being actually, I would say, successful. And that really depends on your definition of your own success, whatever that means to you. But let's just say fulfilled, perhaps, in generating your art, in no matter what form you're in, because we are never able to express ourselves fully if we always try to be perfect, if we're making what we're making for other people, hoping that they're liking it, but then not creating it because it's in here. And
Yeah.
that is what I mean. I personally grew up in East Germany. I went through like 8 years of grueling Russian training, and not to say that it hasn't served me in certain ways. And I am still feeling the effects.
Mm.
Point in case, Write a business plan, Susie. Oh, it's done. However, I need to rewrite it because it's not what I'm doing anymore. So it needs to be done on Monday. When am I doing it? On the Sunday. Scared to death, rewriting 46 pages, not knowing squat, reworking all the numbers, working until like 3 a.m. in the morning.
Mm.
That is the only way I can get over the need of being perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's crazy. Still there, out of the industry for 17 years and still feeling the need to be perfect, not taking actions because I already made a decision that, oh, it's not going to be perfect. So therefore, I'm going to hear a no and another no and another no. And I can't do it.
Yeah. And you know what? You also said something about like success and however you define it. I'm totally on board with that. Like success is a very personal thing. I believe everybody has their own unique blueprint to success. So what is success to you may not be success to me.
Right.
However, I have come to believe that one of the strategies for success to have a sustainable career in music or the arts is definitely prioritizing your wellness and your mental well-being, because you're taking yourself with you everywhere you go. So the example that you just gave is the perfect example. You are taking yourself with you everywhere you go, in the many years of experience you already now have behind you, and you see that there are still certain limiting beliefs or patterns that are repeating themselves. So you know that focusing on those things and making sure that you feel good is going to be key for you to be able to continue on that path. Otherwise, you will just feel like shit, and that doesn't give a good basis to create from, unless you're believing in the starving artists mentality. But that's a different story.
That's a different podcast. No, it's not.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think you, right? Like when we're
Mhm.
saying starving artists, I think it is ingrained in us that there's not enough room in the industry. So you got to do what you got to do. My
Mhm.
mother always said, just so you know that if you want to get somewhere and go somewhere in your profession, you most likely will end up on the casting couch. I'm like, what?
That's
She didn't
terrible.
even have to do anything with the
Mhm.
art. Like she was a chemist. And she had that belief that that's how it works. Nowadays, it's okay, you have to go to college before I let you go off and live your dream. I want you to have an education. Still an old belief, because let's be honest, an education nowadays, unless you want to be a lawyer or an engineer or I don't know, software developer or a doctor, you can find most of the things up to date on the internet and not in a curriculum that has been written 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And still we believe, okay, my kids need to go to college. They need to college. They need to go to university. I'm like, no, you don't have to do a thing. And society still believes that. So starting artist mentality is so alive. I mean, it is like we're rooting for it. We're not gonna let it die. That's almost what it
Yeah.
feels like. And
Yeah.
that's actually in the way of of the evolution of the whole system, I believe.
Yeah, that's the key word. It's a system. It's a system that we've been conditioned to play into and to continue to condone and to uphold. And what I'm trying to do with my business is to break through systems. It's conditioning. It's purely that. And from, like we were talking earlier a little bit about the more business side of things, like even there, the way, for example, an entourage or a team that's surrounding an artist is set up, that has to change as well. I believe that moving forward, every team should at least have a coach or a healer or something along those lines. And that role should be just as normal as the artist manager, the booker, the whatever it is that you have on your team, the accountant, the whatever you have.
PR agent, right?
Yeah, exactly. It should be as normal as that. It should be as normal as going to the dentist, because there is something wrong with your teeth, and you just go to the dentist when there is something wrong with your teeth. So that in and of itself, like that system also has to change. And it's not just the individual that should be focused on personal development. It's also the people around the person and the system that has to change. And for that, that's another conversation. But for that, we will definitely need different people in different types of roles. Who are taking the lead and making changes. That's another.
I have to say though, Eline, is that it starts with ourselves. Like there is no, when in 2020, when you first started the conversation, I heard a lot of artists saying, yeah, but the company's leadership has to change and the industry has to change and the government needs to give us money. And everybody on the outside is responsible for my circumstances or the industry circumstances. And I had to be always very honest and clear that, and this is coming directly from my own experience, is that no, we're part of this. Like every problem has a 200 percentage, and every side owns their own 100%. It's not just the system has to change. It's also, okay, you as an artist, you need to make that attempt and make the decision that, yes, my mental health is the most important thing to me. My physical health is the most important thing. Understanding that without neither of them, you're nothing. You can't do what you want to do, right? And versus reacting, you need to be proactive about it, meaning hiring a coach that is on your team all the time. And that will then give others the permission to actually follow. It takes at first a few leaders that have the courage to do so, to talk about it.
No, that's definitely what you're saying. Like it has to be working together. It's just that not like the self-development pathway definitely is a personal responsibility that every person needs to take. And at the same time, the system also has to change. And it's going to work best if the higher ups are starting to change their perspectives and their minds so it can start to trickle down. So it's kind of, we all just need to more work together, really. It's more about changing that collective consciousness of a community so that it can be a more positive, more healthy, and more inclusive environment for everybody who wants to build a life around their passion. That's actually the vision of my company. It's just that, it's a collective effort for sure.
Beautiful. What's your superpower?
My superpower is that people want to tell me their whole life story within 5 minutes of meeting me. It's been like that all my life. And every time I go somewhere, like my best friend, sometimes she just, it freaks her out because she's like, I can't take you anywhere. Like I'm sitting you down at a bar and within 5 minutes, there's this total stranger sitting next to you, telling you their life story and then apologizing 5 minutes later for doing that and being like, oh my God, I didn't mean to tell you my whole life story. I never told anybody this before. So that is my superpower. And that's also one of the reasons why I decided to become a holistic life coach, because I was like, well, everybody already feels comfortable telling me their soul desires anyway. Might as well, do something with that power. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so where can we find you? Where are you active? What kind of offerings do you have? And tell us all about it.
So you can find me on Instagram at the Unicorn Mothership. You will also find my personal Instagram profile linked there if you want to take a peek or if you want to connect with me personally. My DMs are always open. I know that sounds cliche, but it's actually true. And in terms of offerings, I have several things going on at the same time, and I am very much intuitive, and I don't like to present offerings like that because next week it could change. Like I really have this very intuitive way of doing business, and I'm always operating from alignment and flow. And every day I ask myself, okay, how can I be of service? What would you have me do? and I take it from there. So the message that comes through every day is just, from a daily alignment practice that I have. So if anybody's interested in learning more about me, the best way is just to reach out, send me a DM, and just, tell me a little bit more about you, and then I can actually give you some suggestions as to what offers would be the best. But generally speaking, I have digital courses that you can go through, which are more self-guided learning, which is perfect for people who have a bit of an irregular lifestyle, or who just like something a bit more hands-off, right? Something that you can just do on your own time, in your own space. I also have one-to-one coaching and mentoring, which is a bit more hands-on, a bit more intense. And I also have group programs and workshops if you're more of a person who likes to do the community stuff and who likes to have people around them to learn together. So I kind of have a wide range of things, and depending on what I feel like offering is what you will see on my social media. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Way to go. Every business coach would tell you, what? What are you doing?
Exactly.
Doing it
I know.
anyway. I love it. I had a question. Oh yeah. So we're talking about mental health, right? And I,
Mhm.
I, from my own experience, really never knew that my mental health was declining because I didn't know what the signs were. Can you give us like a few signs to watch out for and for the listeners so they can actually check in with themselves on a daily basis and how am I doing? And where do I need to pivot?
Oh my God, I love that question. That is such a good question. I would say the first thing that I like to suggest is that you follow your, okay, I'm going to use the word good feelings, but I don't like to distinguish between good and bad feelings. But just for the sake of making it more approachable, I feel like you have high vibe and lower vibe feelings, and people kind of distinguish that between good or bad. But there's no such thing. It's just all feelings on the spectrum, right? Just so we're clear. But I would say follow your quote unquote good feelings. And if you feel like there is something off and you feel like lower energy, you feel like it's a bit harder to get out of bed in the morning, you don't feel that drive and that motivation to get started, even not on the things that you love the most, then you know there is something off and you're being presented with what I like to call contrast. There is no struggle, there is no bad things going on in your life. Sometimes we're just presented with contrast, meaning we're seeing things that we don't want to see, that don't feel good, and that we would rather not have, right? And within that contrast, you can kind of see or ask yourself, what exactly is it about the situation that I don't like? Is it something that somebody said, the way they said it? Or was it maybe the thoughts that I was having with what was being said, the interpretations that I was making?
Right.
And you just kind of go through those things and kind of see, like, observe, right? Like, be the observer of your own experience, kind of step away. That creates a little bit of distance between you and what's going on. And just kind of ask yourself these questions. What was being said? What did I hear? Was it me just thinking that? Or is it actually what this person said? And then just know that this too shall pass, right? Like, whenever you feel bad, this too shall pass. And I always like to journal. Personally, when I'm feeling a little bit off, I always like to journal. I always kind of observe what's going on. And then I like to just journal on what's coming up for me. And usually what I do is, if it's really something that's super challenging for me to kind of get through, I just kind of like to ask myself, well, if I'm feeling, let's say, confused right now, then what would confidence be like? Like the exact opposite, what would that be like? And if you're struggling even to come up with that, then think of a person that you know that is confident. What would they do? What would they say? How can you maybe mirror that behavior and kind of try it on like a new jacket and see how that feels for you, right? So that is something that I like to do. I like to journal well, I journal every single day almost. So, yeah, have a check in with yourself. And also, at the end of the day, when you are going to bed in the evening, ask yourself if you've been happy with your day. And if yes, what were the things that you were happy about? And how can you do more of that so that you can increase those good vibe feelings, right? And if it's really like one of those days where it's so freaking hard, just ask yourself, if I would get one thing done today that would make me feel like I had a productive day, what would that be? And then go do that. Because oftentimes the work is the cure, right? Oftentimes we just have to take that first step. And then from there, the next one presents itself, and the next one, and the next one. And you kind of get into this flow. It has this compounding effect. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Like for me, sometimes it's just cleaning out my dishwasher, taking a shower, brushing my teeth, just
Right.
one thing. And then from there, you can just really take that next step and take that next step. So yeah, that's a lot, but I could talk about.
No, I appreciate it. But it's that not taking action actually makes it worse.
Yeah, oftentimes, yes.
It becomes almost a cycle of
Yeah.
something that
Hmm.
gets us more into the place of the undesirable feelings.
Yes, and also, when we start to procrastinate on things or not take action or kind of avoid, it means oftentimes it's not the procrastination that's the problem, it's what's below it. And usually what happens is when you're procrastinating, it means that you're either overwhelmed, so there's too much going on, you're overwhelmed and you're like kind of almost having a freeze response where you're just like, I can't do anything, like I don't know what's going on. Or the other side of it could also be that maybe you're trying to do something that you think you have to do, but it's not an aligned desire for you. And your procrastination is telling you, like, whoa, that thing, this is not for us. Let's not spend our time, our energy, our resources on that. So oftentimes that could also be the thing. And obviously anxiety is also a huge one. When you catch yourself not really wanting to do something, resisting your day, it could definitely stem from anxiety that is underneath. So oftentimes it's also a matter of not beating ourselves up for not doing the thing that we had set out to do, because it's already a pretty pressured environment that you're in. So you don't need to be adding in an extra person, meaning yourself, that's beating you with the stick of like,
Right.
oh my God,
Right. No, we don't need that. We need to
no.
be our own cheerleaders all the time. Question, and thank you for that. With everything that you know right now, what would you tell your 17-year-old, if you would have a chance to just talk to her quickly, what would you tell her?
Mm, I would tell her that she is worthy upon arrival. She is worthy simply because she exists. She is worthy simply because she was born into this world, and that is more than enough. And she is enough, and what she's doing is enough, and it is working, and everything is always working out for her. Everything is always all adding up, and she's being supported and taken care of in ways that she doesn't even realize sometimes. That's what I would tell her.
Beautiful. I would tell my younger self exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Try to connect the dots forward because you can only connect them backwards, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Eline,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. I feel like, yeah, following our gut is the way to go at any given point, either because we really align with the person and with the thinking and the thoughts and their mission, and or sometimes we also connect with these people because they're carrying a lesson for us,
Oh, yeah.
something that we haven't maybe looked at yet, or there are more layers of healing that need to come our way. So I so appreciate your time. Thank you for being, and here's what I have to say. Pivoting and not getting upset around trying new things out. And I'm saying that because I have experienced other reactions too to any kind of technical problems. And I think we tend to take these kind of things personal at times, or we like to blame because we are not quite there in the journey where we know that, oh, you know what? It's just what it is. Let's figure it out. Like nobody needs to be at fault here. And I just wanted to say thank you and appreciate it and call it out. So thank you what you're doing for the electronic music industry. I did not know that this, I would say, part of the performing arts is just as much struggling as, let's say, the dance industry is or
Mm.
opera singers are. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And thank you so, so much for having me, for inviting me over. Because as a human design projector, that is like, the best thing ever to be invited. Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're right. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, we're sending you so much love. Till next time. Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.